everybody, and welcome to the podcast. This is the Macabre Podcast universe, and we exist to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are what, Jordan?
Never better than the originals.
And we are covering the Terminator franchise, and today is our last day in that world.
Some would call it the darkest fate.
The darkest fate. And today we have a little extra notes for you. I did a little extra research for y'all. We're going into the box office. Why are you giving me that face?
You're a y'all guy?
Well, just occasionally. Just occasionally.
Not in this marriage.
Okay. So basically, we're going to break down the box office because this movie no one saw. Nobody saw Terminator Dark Fate.
Less people than the last movie, right?
Oh, much, much less.
Yeah.
And so we're going to break that down. We're going to break down the story itself. And, of course, this was Jordan and I's first time watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But before we do, what do you think of this movie, Jordan?
Thought it was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was really good.
I thought it was really good, too.
Really don't have any complaints in any way about it. I'm choosing to do it's 1, 2, and then this movie are the true Terminator movies.
Yeah.
Get rid of the rest. Don't even acknowledge them. This one was just like everything. Because the last movie they tried to take on the alternate timeline thing, and it totally didn't work. And in this one, they took on an alternate timeline thing, and it's like, yeah, this is the one. This is the alternate timeline story, and it works because part of it is it's simple.
Yes. Yeah, the other movie, and if you missed our Terminator Genesis episode, I highly recommend it because that is maybe the worst movie we've ever covered.
Yeah.
Because they don't get a single thing right about anything.
Yeah.
As far as like what people like about the series. So this movie, yeah, I went into it like pretty, and I'm usually not the one. It's usually you.
Yeah.
Where I was like pretty exhausted with Terminator and kind of over it a little bit.
I was not excited to watch this movie.
Yeah, I was not excited either. And
but you know what did get me a little excited about it?
What?
Is because the movie's on Hulu.
Yeah.
And when we clicked on it, there are 3 women on the cover of an action movie.
Yeah, that is cool.
That never happens.
Except Charlie's Angels.
Okay. 3 women on the cover of an action movie that are not scandalously dressed.
Yes, that doesn't happen. But okay, so I went into this and I'm like, I hope that I like it. But I kind of looked around, doing my research and stuff, and nobody really liked this movie.
We do have to say, though, that we knew it couldn't have been worse than Genesis.
No, and if you'll let me get to my dang
point. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that.
So I was like not sure how I'd feel. I'm hoping I'll like it, but my hopes had kind of dashed by this point because we watched so many bad Terminator movies. Mm-hmm. And part of it is that Terminator Genesis was so bad that this was like a bucket of water being dumped on you on a 110-degree day. Because it was just... It was basically a masterpiece compared to the last movie.
Totally.
And I kept waiting for that moment where I'd go, okay, this is why everyone didn't like it, this thing. And I never got there. And I
know. It even looked really good. The movie looked good. And the action was really cool. And the acting was really good. And the story just made sense. Everyone's motivation was so obvious and good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, especially in action movies, when you have like a female character being tough, she comes across as not nice and a not nice word.
Yeah.
And that was Mackenzie Davis's, like, she kind of fit that character, but there was no part of her that felt that way. She delivered it so, I don't know, like she was a hard ass and I trusted her.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, she is so annoying. These are all the reasons why she shouldn't be complaining about this thing.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I think in a perfect world where there are no mistakes in movie making, I think Terminator 2 would have been the last movie.
Yeah.
Period.
Totally.
And then maybe they could have done something else. I don't know. But I think, and because the other three movies, so Terminator 3, Terminator Salvation, and Genesis all explore, like, they try to do something different with a sequel after 2.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because they try to do all those things and all of them fail, and this one is a little bit repetitive, but it does that thing.
But it's interesting.
I think that this kind of is the only possible sequel.
I think that this movie would have definitely been successful if the other if the other three didn't exist.
Yeah, I think if they're just like, we made a third Terminator movie and it's been 30 years,
exactly,
people would have lost their minds.
Exactly, because exactly for the reasons that you said, all of them are pretty bad, and the last one was also just so bad that people were like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm not going to give you any more of my money, and people actually didn't, which in some ways, very fascinating.
Well, and funny enough, I don't wish that the movie did bad, but I'm kind of glad it did, because all intents and purposes, they were ready for a new trilogy.
That's true, and they shouldn't be doing that.
I mean, that was their plan, was like, they are going to make 2 more after Dark Fate.
Yeah.
That will have, like, not Diego, or Danny, as, like, the main character. And I'm really glad that the movie did bad enough that maybe this would just be the end of Terminator.
That's a good point.
I do think, though, that it's very possible that someone in 5 years is going to be like, I have an idea for a Terminator movie, and it'll be like another relaunch. And it won't be good.
No.
But
I don't think you can get better than this one for a reboot with
I don't
series
think so
of this
either.
history.
And I think the genius of this movie, the smartest decision they made is to kill John Connor. That was the smartest decision they made for this movie.
Yeah, I agree too, because he is just a parasite sucking the life out of most of these movies.
Yeah.
And I mean, it makes sense that they're trying to come up with a new storyline, and it's like, well, the first two had Sarah, like, mostly Sarah. So let's really dig into the John character. And it's like, he's more of a MacGuffin than anything.
Yeah, well, kind of, yeah.
Okay, but you know what I mean? Like, people are just trying so hard to just figure something out with him.
Yeah, and I think just starting it over, and the one thing I really did, well, no, we'll get into that part later. But shall I break down the total box office for this series for you? So, Yes, let's go worldwide first. The number 1 grossing movie is Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Number 2 is Terminator Genesis, surprisingly. Number 3...
Is this like with inflation and all that?
This is just world.
Okay.
So Terminator Genesis was one of those movies that made
that's right.
way more money in China.
That's right.
So then Terminator 3 is the 3rd. Terminator 4, Salvation, is the 4th. Dark Fate is 5. And then Terminator 1 is 6. That makes sense. First movie, I don't think it had much of an international release, if any. I can't remember. So Dark Fate at the very bottom, basically. Then series domestically. Terminator 2, highest grossing. Terminator 3, Salvation, Genesis, Dark Fate. And then I think Terminator 1 underneath those. Again, because first movie. But so it's pretty much like, if that doesn't show you right there that each movie after 2 makes less money, it's kind of like, I mean, even just on a purely non-artistic level, it's time to be done.
I mean, even the Twilight movies made more after every movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, it fluctuates a little bit, but these are pretty dramatic. Mm-hmm. So this movie in the U.S., Jordan, made $62.2 million. Worldwide, it made $261.1, and the budget of the movie was $185. So it didn't make any money.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't make any money.
No.
And again, I think it's a double-edged sword. Like, it sucks. Not a double-edged sword, but like a catch-22. It sucks that this movie wasn't well received, because even critics, it's not like...
Yeah, critics didn't like it either.
Critics didn't like it.
Did you read
Fans
any
didn't
reviews?
like it. I just looked through a couple of... I just looked at the numbers. I didn't read any reviews. I know that it looked like David Sims liked it.
Okay.
Like, wasn't crazy about it, but
Like, it's serviceable.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
and but I think it's worth watching. In an ideal world, you would just watch 1, 2 in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
But let's get into the production. So, the movie's directed by Tim Miller, and this is his second movie.
What's his first?
His first movie was Deadpool.
Oh, I keep forgetting. Okay.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds made that movie.
Yeah. Well, he was a big part of it.
I know. I just think it's Ryan Reynolds or no Deadpool.
Yeah. But this was interesting to watch because...
Wait, did he make the second Deadpool?
No. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, they got a different director because of creative differences.
Oh.
Yeah. And then he goes on to do this, and I think this kind of puts him a little more on my radar because when it was like the director of Deadpool's doing Terminator, I'm like, well, I don't think Deadpool is necessarily that well directed.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's a fun movie, kind of diminishing returns for sure.
Oh, yeah,
But
definitely.
at the time when it came out, I was like, yeah, this rules. Then the more I have seen it, it's like, oh my gosh, shut up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look good. Like, it's a pretty ugly movie aesthetically, I think. It's concrete.
It's whatever.
It's washed
Yeah.
out concrete, you know. So I was surprised at how much I liked this, and I'm very curious what he will do next.
Yes.
He's not one of my guys, but curious what
Could
he'll
he
do
be?
next. Maybe, probably not, but maybe. The screenplay, David Goyer. He's kind of a guy that gets thrown around a lot. He was one of the main writers on the Dark Knight movies,
Oh, cool.
but also some of the newer DC movies. He's kind of a Hollywood guy where you send him a script.
Sure.
He works on it. Justin Rhodes, who did Contract Killers. Billy Ray,
Cyrus?
no, who is writing the Devil in the White City TV series.
Yeah, like that's ever going to get made.
I know. He wrote Richard Jewell, which we're big fans of that movie.
Yes, very good.
He wrote Gemini Man, which is another movie that's critically and audience reviled, but a good movie.
Yeah.
Overlord, Captain Phillips, and I forgot we've talked about him on our Hunger Games episode.
Okay.
He wrote that movie.
Like
one
the
of
first
the writers.
movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Story is all those same people plus James Cameron. Actually, Billy Ray only worked on the screenplay,
Cyrus.
not the story. Charles Egley, who works on Walking Dead, Dexter, The Shield, Dark Angel, American Gods, one episode. And then Josh Friedman, who...
These people all have a story credit?
Yeah.
How does that even break down? How does that work? That is so
Well,
frustrating to me.
Why is that frustrating?
Why
frustrating?
so many people like, I mean, I don't really know how it works. I know a little bit because of that Detective Pikachu episode on Blank Check
Yeah.
when they talked about it. But all these people have story credits, and it's like, what happened? They all went to dinner together and had ideas, or throughout pre-production, everyone had like one idea, and it's like, oh,
Well,
that's good enough for a story credit
I think it's cool because
they're covering all their bases.
they're covering all their bases. And I mean, this is such a movie where it's like, okay, I look at the list, like James Cameron, it makes sense that he's contributing story. David Goyer, you know, the people who wrote the script. But maybe Charles Egley looked at the script and was like, you know what would be cool, though, is if John Connor died and then there was a new savior. Maybe that's his only thing, but it's like, that's the entire movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Especially with a franchise, it makes more
Yeah.
sense. But
And-
it's like, I wouldn't want that many people having a say on what's in my script.
Yeah, but that's why the three people, you know, edit
I
that
know,
down
I
into
know.
one script.
They do the nitty gritty.
Yeah. And then Josh Friedman, who wrote Avatar 2, the Snowpiercer show,
Okay.
the Sarah Connor Chronicles show, which we never really talked about on this podcast, and that's okay. But Fox had a Sarah Connor TV show, and Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. Good movie. And then
Got Tom.
It's got Tom.
Got Tom. It's got Dakota. Who's his son again?
I don't know.
I got to look it up, but keep
Okay.
going.
Well, music is by Junkie XL, who we've talked about on a lot of episodes. He's Mad Max and also Mortal Engines composer. The cinematography is Ken Seng, who did Deadpool, Bad Words, Step Up 3D, to name a few. So here's another problem I think that this movie was up against. It came out November 1st, 2019. Now, I know we're covering the series in the winter, but this is a summer movie.
Yeah, it's not a winter movie.
Like,
I think
November 1st, that's like you're getting strapped in, you're getting ready to watch dramas and like family movies, not Terminator. This should have been like a July or August release. But it's also the year that Endgame came out, so and also Spider-Man, so I don't know how you navigate that. But you would think if you released this, around the time that Spider-Man came out in July, or maybe it was June. Actually, I think it was May. But you release it somewhere around there, somebody's going to see Spider-Man and be like, let's double feature.
That's what I think. Because, okay, so those movies did come out, yeah, and they're going to run all summer, but don't release it within a month of them.
Yeah. I think, come on. Get it together.
People get bored.
Okay, so let me jump into some of this production. Miller leaves Deadpool 2 and starts working on this, but he requests that Cameron be involved.
Cool.
So, we've talked so much about rights in this series. And so then the producers are like, yeah, okay. And they add Cameron. So after all of the like craziness, when I was reading the production of this movie, I kept expecting it to be dramatic like the other movies. And it's just like, oh, we wanted Cameron, so we got Cameron. Just very like, okay.
Yeah.
And he was too busy with, he wasn't going to direct it.
No.
But so Cameron said, we're pretending the other films were a bad dream or an alternate timeline, which is permissible in our multiverse. So right off the bat, they're saying...
I'm going to go with bad dream.
Yeah. And then it was setting up a trilogy. I've already said that. So Miller... So here's another story by thing. This is really interesting. Miller consulted with novelists to reinvent the franchise. So he talked to the sci-fi novelists Joe Abercrombie, Neil Asher, Greg Bear, Warren Ellis, and Neil Stevenson to like see what this world could look like and become before they started writing.
A lot of the people you name are like especially action as well.
Oh, okay. That's an I haven't seen that move before.
I like
That's
that.
Cool. Billy Ray rewrote much of Goyer's draft. Miller wrote the film's action scenes while Ray handled the characters. So there's a little bit of a breakdown for you. And they had no backup plan if Hamilton said, I don't want to be in it.
So they would just recast?
Well, I think...
You would have had even less people come to the movie.
No, what I got from that is they're like, if Hamilton's not in, I guess we're not making it.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, she's in it. We're going to make it. Like, if she passes, we're going to have to just write a new script or something. So they were pretty committed to that, which I respect. Hamilton had some more stunt doubles, but she still did a lot of her own stunts.
She's so cool.
She is
so cool. And she's still buff.
She's buff, yeah.
And I love her hair in this movie.
I think her hair rules. Yeah. So Miller and Cameron did a lot of the editing, which resulted in a lot of disagreements, apparently.
Oh.
And Miller said he still likes Cameron and everything, but he doesn't necessarily want to work with him again.
It's like working with, that's his baby.
Yeah.
That must have been so hard to do.
It was the subject of comments which criticized the film's focus on an all-female main cast. And
start over with that sentence.
It was the subject of comments which criticized the film's focus on an all-female main cast and the absence of the Terminator and John Connor, and raised concerns that the film was an all-male reboot similar to previous attempted critical and commercial failures when the trailer came out. Which is stupid. That's a dumb opinion.
I didn't feel that way at all.
No.
A female reboot?
Yeah. It's always been Sarah Connor. She's been... And
it's Sarah Connor and Terminator.
Yeah, it's just, that's a dumb opinion to have. If you're so scared of something because women are now the leads, like, just get over it. Just get over it.
Yep.
Ghostbusters with women? Cool. Oceans with women? I haven't seen it, but cool. I think I was hesitant to those ideas. I will admit that, but I've grown. And it's fine. And if you have an issue with that, that's weird. It's weird. But I'm speaking as someone who used to, so you can change. You're allowed to change.
A very funny It's Always Sunny episode that is an all-female reboot of their Boggs, that when they go on the plane and try to drink more than some baseball player.
Wade Boggs.
And they do an all-girl reboot of that episode. It is so funny.
Yeah, well, and it is another issue, too, where, I mean, I tend to think, like, and I don't think this movie is a product of that at all.
Yeah.
This is very natural storytelling.
Yeah.
There is, and I will give people this, where it's like, this is how I felt about Oceans, where I was like, why are you making an Oceans movie? Just make a new movie that's a heist with women. You don't, like...
I think that's what they say in that Sunny episode, where it's like, it's just women, but you have nothing new to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something that is interesting.
I mean, it's a big issue. It is, and I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm saying it's just it's a big discussion that we don't necessarily need to or have the means to unpack in this episode.
No.
But I do think it's
just a funny episode commentary on it.
Yeah, and it's lame when that is your takeaway from a series you like that now has girls in it. More prevalent, especially a series that is about a girl.
Yeah.
Like, get over it, dude.
Yeah. Dude.
I'm assuming. I guess that's wrong of me. By October 2019, Gale and Hurd, so this is a month before the movie comes out, had filed to terminate a copyright.
To terminate?
A copyright grant made 35 years earlier. Under this move, Hurd would again become a 50-50 owner of the rights with Cameron, and Skydance Media could lose the rights to make any additional Terminator films beginning in November 2020.
Oh, brother. That is so boring. Just jargon, but that has so much meaning.
In October 2019, Cameron said that sequels... I'm sorry. This deal... Yeah. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Okay. In October 2019 as well, Cameron said that sequels to Terminator Dark Fate would further explore the relationship between humans and artificial intelligence, while stating that a resolution between the two feuding sides would be the ultimate outcome. That month, Schwarzenegger said that Cameron would write the Terminator Dark Fate sequels and that Cameron would begin work on the next film in early 2020 for release in 2022. Sources close to Skydance say that as of now, there are no future plans. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
And yeah, this might be a dumb question. So in this movie, we find out that the original time, the original future, the 2029 future has been altered.
Yes.
And there is no Cyberdyne and no Skynet because they took it down.
Yes.
Thank you. But also, wouldn't that mean that Terminator wouldn't exist?
Well, I think this series operates on... It's different than, like, the Looper series.
Okay.
Where I think it's more like all the timelines kind of happen at once.
Sure.
So...
Different dimensions.
Like, once Arnold leaves that alternate future and comes into our future, he's now in our future.
Okay.
And I think if you follow that logic, too, I think you could suppose that... it's possible that if they killed John Connor, for example, in the first movie, Sarah Connor, that the outcome maybe would have to be lived through again and turned differently. But it still would have happened. I don't know. But I don't know for sure.
Okay.
It just seems like that's the like time travel approach they took rather than like the Looper approach where when you affect the past, it changes the present right now. I don't think they took that approach.
Interesting. Okay.
It's kind of there's so many theories on time travel, so you can kind of do a lot of different cool stuff.
Not in Genesis, though.
No.
Are you done?
Yes, I am done. Yeah.
Okay, so in this movie, we have Mackenzie Davis, who plays Grace, who is the augmented cyborg person. She is in Blade Runner 2049. Wait. This movie takes place, the future is 2042, right?
Oh, close.
Wouldn't that be nuts?
That would be.
She's also in *Halt and Catch Fire*, *Black Mirror*, *The Martian*, *Irresistible*. She was in *The Turning* that came out last year, I think.
I think it was last year or like January this year.
Yeah. Also, she was in *Tully*. Oh, that's right. I remember seeing trailers for that movie. The movie didn't look good.
Yeah, I didn't have an interest in that one.
But yeah, that's Mackenzie Davis in a nutshell. And then Natalia Reyes plays Danny Ramos. She is in Birds of Passage, Kumbia Ninja, 2091. Running with the Devil. Oh, she's in a Nick Cage movie. Interesting. Yeah, in a nutshell. And then let's find... Oh, we have to cover him, even though he was in one scene. We have to cover Tom Hooper, who is 1 in Umbrella Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Guys.
His name's Tom Hooper?
Yeah, and he's British.
That's the name of the director.
Oh, yeah.
Who did Cats.
He's the good one.
I'll repeat it and see if you say the same sentence. The director who did Cats, Jordan.
Yeah, This Tom Hooper I'm talking about right now was the good one.
Oh, interesting. He didn't direct Cats.
That's what makes him the good one. That's the only reason that makes him the good one.
Okay. Okay, I guess
Okay.
I'm lost.
Okay. Yeah, Tom Hooper, guys, is in Umbrella Academy. He's 1. He's amazing, and everyone needs to watch that show. Please. I'm not even going to say what else he's in. Go watch that show.
Okay, geez.
Okay, now let me find the other guy. Okay. Gabriel Luna, who plays Rev 9.
Yeah, he was so good.
He was amazing.
He was so good. I loved
He's
him
in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, he plays Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Really?
I didn't even know they had the guts to put that character in that show.
Wow.
But
So
they
that means
did.
he probably won't ever be in the movies. It's too bad.
Oh, yeah.
I could use a little ghost.
He's also in Bernie. He's in Transpecos, Dark Web, Holla.
Bernie's a good movie.
Yeah, that is a really good movie. There is a movie called Harley and the Davidsons. And yeah, it's about motorcycles.
No way.
So that can't be good. There's just no way.
No.
Oh, he's also in True Detective.
What season?
How do you find that out?
Wait, what's his name?
Gabriel Luna.
Oh, he's in Temple Grandin. What the heck? Oh, he's in season 2. 3 episodes of season 2. One of the worst seasons of television I have ever watched with my own two eyes.
That's pretty much it for me.
Okay. Yeah, that covers just about everybody. So let's start talking about this movie. So the movie begins, and it's showing footage of Sarah Connor.
For once, no voiceover. Am I right?
There's voiceover.
Sarah Connor's doing voiceover. But the first shot is of the Skull Beach.
No, the first shot is the footage of Sarah Connor screaming in Terminator 2.
Which, upon rewatching it, it's solidified that it is one of the most uncomfortable scenes on film to me.
Where she's yelling.
Yeah, it's really real.
Yeah, well, and they also added like a grain to it, and they kind of like... They made it look even scarier than it appears in Terminator 2. And
no, they're showing it on a TV in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
It's like the same shot.
Yeah, but I feel like they added a little something, a little edge to it.
Oh,
and how they edited it or something. Because also the way it's edited is very cool, where it shows the logo to a movie, then it shows her and she's yelling and stuff like that, and then it shows another logo.
Talk about
then
setting
it cuts
a tone.
back to her. And it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. One thing that I was impressed and very surprised about, considering this is the same man who directed Deadpool, is this movie still has like the earnestness of a good Terminator movie.
Mm.
The first two, whereas like I thought maybe it'd be a little more like
tongue in cheek.
This is dark and cool.
Oh, okay.
And we're shoving it down your throats, man.
Yeah.
Like this is the real Terminator, and it didn't feel that way to me.
Yeah.
But then we see a bone beach, which
really cool because it took a while because of waves were pulling back the sand to reveal it. That was
cool.
I would love to know how they did that. If it's as simple as it is, they just buried a bunch of skulls in the sand and then waited for
the tide to come in.
It looked incredible. And also love that it's finally we're seeing the skull thing, which is it's a Terminator movie. You're probably going to see someone walking on a skull at some point.
Yeah.
And it was just like unexpectedly refreshing to see it in a different location, because it's usually just anywhere. Like it's probably LA.
Well, it's usually like the battleground that they made in I almost said episode 1 in the first movie.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see it on like in a natural habitat.
Yeah, and showing them coming up from the water too was really cool.
Very cool.
It just was so moody.
And I loved, I love those laser sounds. Those are really cool, and I like how they didn't update those. I don't think they have in any of the movies. They probably did in Terminator Genesis, though. Crap. Yeah, a cool.
I don't think they did
because
I feel like I've commented on that.
Oh,
that was like my one positive note on that movie.
Well, bad movie. Worth watching though, because it's so bad. And then we see this woman, like, the electricity orbs, the time travel bubbles that we've come to know and love.
When do we see Sarah at the beach though?
Oh,
okay.
I forgot. That's the first scene. So it cuts.
It hasn't been a couple of days.
We see young Sarah Connor, and
this scene, everyone is unbelievable.
I think it might be the best.
It is the best CGI recreation of an actual person. Holy!
I think today
crap.
It is. So just because I gotta say, so they had an actress on set that looks kind of similar to Sarah Connor, and then they got
the hair like dead on to what it was, which a lot of the times. What?
It wasn't floaty, and it could have been.
No, but like even when someone tries to restyle someone's hair like 20 years later, and they're like restyling just a different person's hair to the same hairstyle of that past character, it always just looks a little off because it's not that person's hair.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, I said Linda Hamilton still looks really good, and Micah said no, that's like they de-aged.
Yeah.
It fooled me. And when they showed John Connor, I was like, but no, that guy's old now.
I know. It's this actually, besides the fact that this is like not shot on film, which, I don't notice that all the time. Like it looks like it was shot during T2.
Yeah.
Like that they got these shots and they'd never used them. Like it was an alternate ending or something.
Yeah.
Arnold looks slightly different than Arnold.
Yes.
But I think they did a magnificent job recreating one of the most iconic faces ever that we've ever seen in movies.
Yeah.
But so they had like a woman on set who was Sarah Connor, and then Linda Hamilton's like doing the scenes as well to kind of show her how to act.
Right.
What like Sarah Connor would do.
Yeah.
And then they're just putting on a new face on that lady. And they're referencing, of course, they're referencing all the footage from Terminator 2.
Yeah. And they do have a lot to work with.
They have a lot to work with.
But I mean, John Connor looked like they found a literal time machine, and they plugged that guy into it, and he came back as a kid.
I know, and I think we are getting very close, and I think this movie's one of the marks. We're getting very close to where like Uncanny Valley is no longer a thing.
It reminds me of that BoJack episode.
Yeah, where they scan in the people's faces
in case he dies, so they can just CGI him in for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, we're getting close.
It is unreal. It looked so good.
It's kind of scary.
No, it is. It definitely is. And how ironic is it that it's kind of scary in a movie like this?
Yeah, because it's about technology.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I am like, I don't know. I lost my train of thought.
I just could watch this scene for the whole duration of the movie. I was that blown away by it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and it's truly like a feat, even if you just watch the one scene. And so this Terminator comes in. It's Arnold, but it's not. It's another actor.
He kills John, and I think I kind of tuned out for a second, got distracted by something because I thought this was like a dream sequence.
Right.
I was very confused. And she is narrating over this.
Yeah, and I think that I think this is like the genius of the movie is just killing John.
Yeah.
And I love that whole idea of, he was the savior of the human race, but you changed that future. Yeah. So he's like just a kid now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
Right.
So when they shoot him, and I think it provides Sarah Connor with a really nice like character arc and like a lot that she gets to do.
So she did explain this later on, but so when they blew up Cyberdyne and Skynet, that changed it.
Yes.
Period.
So they basically cut off that timeline.
They did, but one got through. Still, she explained, and that's the one that killed her son. So, like, one did get through, and he was still programmed to kill John.
Yeah.
No, regardless of the fact that the future had been changed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be really my only issue with the movie, is that's just a very, like, retcon-y thing to do, where it's like,
yeah,
that's convenient.
But I'll accept it.
I totally accept it.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Gosh, that scene was just so good.
And and I think the implication is that, like, that Terminator was sent before Skynet was destroyed. So, like, at some point in T2, they sent another one. I think is the implication.
Like, maybe right as soon as Robert Patrick died.
Yeah. So, then we see our familiar time travel bubble, and this woman falls off of a bridge.
I love how they did it. She, like, went in the middle of the freeway. Like, I guess the sphere was, like, in the middle of the bridge.
Yeah, that was cool.
And, yeah, she fell.
Far.
She fell.
And we get, you've been commenting a lot on the nudity in the franchise, and you've been complaining when they don't give us enough.
Okay, well, that's not true.
Well, you kind of were.
But you know what I mean by that,
yes,
right? Okay.
I'm also just
you
making
better
fun
be
of you.
joking.
But we got some good female nudity in this movie.
But it is not. She is not sexualized, and she's naked for a whole scene.
Yeah,
and you see nothing.
No, I was impressed in how they shot it, because it felt very much like the same feelings when you saw Arnold in the first movie, where it's not like,
absolutely,
oh, here's this hottie who's got like a crazy body.
They even did that one wide shot where you saw all the police cars, all the people, and her.
Yeah,
her whole body.
Yeah,
and
it was.
You didn't see anything.
Tasteful.
It really was. It really was. Also, Mackenzie Davis is huge.
Yeah,
by huge I mean tall. Big person. Was just, we were commenting on it the whole movie about how big she was. She's only 5'10", but when she's up against protecting Danny, who's probably like 5'5", 5'4", she's probably going to look a lot bigger.
Yeah, and I think it was funny because I'd only seen Blade Runner 2049 of
her stuff.
Although I think you did mention one other that I saw, but I'm sure she had a small role in it. And when I watch this movie, I'm like, give her everything. I want to see her in everything. And then I look at her filmography and I go, oh, she's actually pretty accomplished. I just have been late to this train.
Yeah.
Because she's unbelievable in this movie.
Oh, yeah. She's great.
I loved her performance. And so she gets kind of rescued by these people who, like, help her. And then
we're in Mexico City now, by the way.
Yeah. And that's another thing. We talk about this so much.
Change of location.
It's not Los Angeles. It looks different.
Thank goodness.
And it just is refreshing.
Yes.
And so she fights off of the cops, and then she grabs the guy's clothes because
she's big.
She's big. Yeah. And then we see another Terminator show up, and this is like our bad guy.
Oh, not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
We cut to Danny.
Oh, right.
And it's just show us being introduced to her character. You very like right off the bat, you see that she's very I guess like
she's fun.
She kind of has it all together. Like she gets everyone in order. Like she makes sure her brother's up in time for work. She makes sure her dad's ready for his appointment. Clearly, they don't have a mom.
Maybe
so
she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline.
So she is kind of like the caretaker of the home. So she's just doing everything that needs to be done for the day. Very leader orientated.
Yeah,
which is interesting because she becomes leader of the human race.
Kind of too not actually, but a little bit too bad that her brother died because I was kind of digging him.
He was really good.
I liked,
and I kind of am always a little bit interested in like a character who is interested in being purely just famous. Doesn't even matter if he has a talent, because like when we're introduced to his character, he's just like posting a picture of himself on Instagram and is like 147 likes. Like, that's pretty good, huh? It's like, you're a real person. You're a real person. So many people wake up every morning and think about that.
Yeah, we do.
So, we're introduced to her family. They go off to work, and they work at the auto assembly line, like you said.
Yeah.
And then that is when the Rev 9 shows up.
Yeah. And it's a cool touch that when he shows up, he freezes all the laundry that's in the air, and it shatters because of the electricity and stuff. Cool.
Also suspended in midair.
Yeah,
sphere.
he falls as well, but he lands.
You
know, kind of like
Arnold.
in the first movie. And then he goes up to the dad and he's like, "Hey, where's Danielle?" And the guy's like, "Danielle? All her friends call her Danny."
It's Daniela.
Or Daniela, yes. And then next thing we know,
man.
Let's talk about him.
So when he went to her apartment and was talking to his dad, it was like, this guy's sweet. He's even a little cute.
Yeah.
What? He's turning on the charm real? Because I couldn't quite tell yet because I had no idea what this movie was, who the bad guy was.
Oh, okay.
Quite yet.
So you never saw a trailer for this movie, did you?
No, I don't watch trailers.
Right, that's right.
So
you said that just like I'm a peasant for watching trailers.
I just don't really like them.
I don't watch trailers, you
know
peasant.
This about me. But I mean, of course he is whatever. But his acting is just really good that it's like, okay, so he shows up and he's being charismatic, as Micah might say.
Yes.
She shows up and she's not really giving you anything emotionally. Yeah. A lot of the times you're going to side more with the emotional person because they're a little relatable. So it's like, I don't really know who to trust right now. You clearly find out who you should trust.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and it's a smart choice because, you know, we have Arnold, unstoppable killing machine. We have Robert Patrick, who's unstoppable killing machine, but also kind of cool and suave-ish. Then the third movie, kind of a wash. The fourth movie with Sam Worthington, definitely a wash.
Yeah.
The fifth movie, I don't know what I saw. So he chose to do it with, you know, like there's that scene when they're at the border, and he's like kind of cracking jokes with people. And he does seem like a cool guy. Like, oh, he's kind of nice.
Yeah. He knows how to.
But then he turns on a dime.
People.
I mean, I want to see this guy. I want to see this guy as Ghost Rider in the next Marvel movie.
I would take a Ghost Rider movie right now. I really would.
I would. And
I would also like to rewatch the Nick Cage one.
I would like to rewatch them and do a Patreon series on them, and probably.
Is there only two?
There's only two. And probably possibly have Olivia on at least one of those.
Oh, because it's Nick Cage?
Yeah, National Treasure. So...
oh my gosh, we can do 4 Nick Cage movies.
Yeah.
Until they make...
just be back to back to back.
Wow. We're doing it. We're doing it all in succession.
Well, we'll do the Ghost Rider while we're covering National Treasure leading up to the release of National Treasure 3.
Oh, in like 20 years when they finally make it?
No, they're like working on it. It's greenlit.
They've been working on it for how long?
No, but this one seems real.
Just like how Devil in the White City, directed by Martin Scorsese, with starring Leonardo DiCaprio, seemed real.
Yeah, that's been in the work. But hey, it took him 25 years to make Silence, so you never know.
That's true.
But I don't think that is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen with an iteration of it being directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Leonardo. Yeah. I think at some point Leo's going to drop. And I don't even know if Scorsese's directing the TV show.
I think people have just kept, whoever's involved keeps forgetting to take down the IMDb page.
That's funny. I liked that a lot. So they're at the factory. There's a pretty cool fight sequence where Grace...
But leading up to it, I thought was really good. So that they're working... Oh, no. So they get there and there's a machine doing their job.
Yeah.
So you like through insinuation, brother's gonna get laid off because that's where he works.
Yeah.
So the sister goes and takes care of business with the boss and is like, "How can you let this happen?" Kind of stuff. A lot of conversations we've heard before.
Yeah.
But as that's going on, the guy Rev 9 comes in. No. Yeah, Rev 9 comes in as Dada.
Yeah. Because if he touches something, he can take its form.
Just like Robert Patrick.
Yeah, which is just cool because they mention that. So you like the rules are very much something that you can latch onto.
Yeah. So he comes in and you think it's Dad. And sorry. He says that the son forgot his lunch and they get there and he's like, "You forgot your lunch." And it's like, "No, Danny grabbed both of her lunches. It's right there." And he's looking for Danny. And then is this when Mackenzie also shows up?
I think so.
And they just start fighting.
Pretty cool. I think the like physics / the hits in this movie really are hard. Because Grace has
action.
Yeah, she has like a sledgehammer. And she's like hitting him in the face and
But
stuff.
I like
and
that
it's
at one
crazy.
point when she does hit him in the head, his like body absorbs it.
Yeah. I think that this is the first, we've talked about this on this series. This is the first time that they make an update to the T series. Well, I guess he's a Rev 9. That's actually interesting. And it's not just kind of the same thing as Robert Patrick.
Oh, it's absolutely interesting because for the first time since the second movie, I don't know how they're going to beat this thing.
Yeah. I felt that unstoppable force again.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
Guys,
we like this movie.
It's good.
It's a good movie.
But Mackenzie Davis and her action, I mean, it's like I would not want to do an action scene with her. I think she would actually hurt me. That's how great she is.
She needs to be in John Wick 4 for sure.
Oh my gosh.
She needs to be in John Wick 4.
Maybe that'll make John Wick 4 good.
Yeah.
Please, Keanu, ring, get her in.
Keanu. Or you know what? She should be in Matrix 4, actually.
Oh,
that would be
my
cool.
gosh. That would be incredible.
Okay, I'm just going to try an experiment and see if you say the same thing. She should be in...
It's over. But she should be in Matrix 2. That would be
perfect.
Nuts.
She'd be great in it.
Oh my gosh. She could like replace the Trinity character. Not like replace her. Not like recast.
She died.
I know. I'm not saying recast her.
No.
But like fill in that void.
I am so curious what that movie is going to be. Matrix 4.
Yeah.
Because Trinity is like second build with Keanu.
Yeah.
So
I think it's got a lot of hard work to make it half as good as the other stuff. I know the action will always make it at least half as good because there's always an emphasis on it.
Yeah.
But from my memory on the last movie, a lot of it was predicated on like these things were meant to happen and they have been happening. Okay, so all that stuff happened and they broke the cycle.
Yeah.
And now you want to make another movie?
But they do kind of end it. They end it with a deal between the machines and humans. So
that is true. That's true.
Yeah. And if we know nothing about the Wachowskis, we know that they are earnest filmmakers.
That's true too.
I know it's only Lily. I don't think I forget the other Wachowski's name is, but I think it's only Lily solo credit.
To direct?
Which is really interesting.
Oh, I don't know if it can be good.
But it's Keanu. Come on. But here's the other thing I want to say about it. What is interesting is like I know probably most likely Lily is not going to show up and go, now let's make it like twisted and like fix the franchise.
No. Yeah.
Because they're too earnest.
Yeah.
Everything I heard about.
Hopefully the other one at least like produces. Like maybe.
Hopefully. Oh, yes, I see.
Like
what you're
maybe
saying.
like the other one is directing something else and just can't work on this movie.
It's weird. I think it's the first time they've ever not directed something together though.
Weird.
So that'll be.
That's weird.
Interesting. It'll be interesting if it shows, you know.
Everyone's gonna be.
You know what?
Curious about.
You know what's something I really like? Movies, and I love talking about movies. And we're here talking about movies, and this is a good one.
Let's get through the first act already.
So there's a big fight sequence on a freeway. Now, if you remember Terminator 2, I said, Matrix when we were rewatching it this summer.
Mad Max, whole thing's a friggin' freeway.
You gotta have more freeway scenes in movies.
Yeah.
Freeways, chase scenes are cool.
Yeah.
Especially when they're shot well. This one's cool. He jumps out of the semi and like jumps into their truck, which her brother was killed a little bit ago.
He's not killed until that truck is destroyed.
That's right. But we'll kind of skip past that. But the Rev 9's like body can leave
the skeleton,
the CPU.
Sure.
Is what I saw online, which was a cool way to do it.
The nanotech that Tony Stark created still works.
Yeah. What's really cool is, so this Terminator has like, it's like a black kind of...
It looks so cool.
Really cool. It looks a little bit huskier and not as like thin as the other ones.
Wait, really? I thought it looked thinner than the other ones.
Oh, I thought it looked like there was a little bit more mass to it.
I think that it looks a little bit more elongated.
Interesting.
In the skeleton, and the spine looks really interesting to me in it, on how it...
Well, we want your thoughts, and the only way we will accept your thoughts is if you go to Apple Podcasts and give us 5 stars. Tell us your thoughts on the designs.
Sure.
But it's cool, and they don't say it which I like, but you can see that the CPU, like exoskeleton, does not have a brain. And throughout the movie,
It's an exoskeleton implies that it's the outside. This is the skeleton.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, there's no brain in it.
And what's cool is throughout you see they do a really good job of like showing you that portion of it can't really think in the same way that the actual like stuff that left the CPU can.
Yes.
It's like a server that's sitting there and it's just doing the actions
driving the car
it's supposed to do, but it can't necessarily like react and do stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that was real because it was kind of subtle, but it definitely showed through.
I think it's that same scene too when he morphs back into it.
Yeah.
It was just like big thumbs up for me on how it happened. The effects were just so cool.
And I think you did a like, what? Or I think you might have done a fist pump.
Probably a fist pump.
When they're like trapped and they're going to die. And then the car like peels out and Sarah Connor just gets
definitely
out
did one
in
for her.
slow motion. And she just like unloads a whole gun and then pulls out a bazooka and shoots the Rev 9.
That's fist pump worthy.
And it's like, this is cool.
Yeah, so she shows up out of nowhere seemingly and blasts him off the freeway. And she says something like, "I'll be right back." But she doesn't say the cheesy line.
No, she says, "I'll be back."
Oh yeah, but the way she says it is really cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
she goes down to make sure that like throws a bomb down there, like make sure it's gone or whatever.
And she just looks cool.
Oh, she
they
looks
gave her
so
such a
cool.
proper intro. She has not been in the movie, in the series since T2.
So
and this is the way to bring her back.
And you
in.
told me that she wanted to have the hairstyle that she has for this movie because it's like old lady, white. And
I'm
short.
hoping that I didn't misremember that.
Either way, I think it's a really good choice.
I think she said something like, "You just don't get action movies where a woman is old and like retired,
unless you're Helen Mirren in Red."
Yeah, and good for Helen Mirren, but where it's like you always get like a Liam Neeson movie every year, but it's like that's
a good point. Yep.
And so for her to like really encompass like the gray hair and stuff, and she looks older.
She's such an icon, man. She's so
rules.
great.
And she was like pretty much retired from acting. She like kind of came out of retirement for
and boy,
this movie.
does she give a compelling performance.
I love it. She's that perfect like Cameron cheesiness in this movie.
But also when they meet up with Terminator, her acting throughout that is like, man, that is rough stuff to get through.
Oh yeah.
So that happens when she goes down there. Grace and Danny steal her car and drive away.
Yeah.
And this is when Grace starts like getting sick and like kind of passing out and convulsing.
Yeah.
I think. And they go to a pharmacy to try and help her. So you're slowly kind of learning, like, I think even Danny might have made comments about like she had some scarring and it's like she had like mesh wiring under her.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is she? And then she's like, it kind of reminds me of like she's diabetic and she needs an insulin shot because I think she just kind of like takes insulin. I mean, she needs
there was
lot
a line where we were discussing how cool Sarah Connor was that they explained why she needed that stuff. But I think
probably.
we were like,
well, in my brain, it's like she was a full on human.
Yeah.
It is explained that they basically make her a cyborg. They put most of her is now robot parts.
Yeah.
But she still is human, and I'm assuming like those things can't totally work together that well, or like the stuff that she has been replaced with still does not give her the necessary nutrients to stay alive as a human.
Yeah.
So she needs to take like insulin shots.
The nutrients. Nacho Libre.
Oh, okay. So I really like that scene too, especially with like the tension was really high with the people in the store and that one guy like trying to help.
Yeah.
It was good.
And because you talked about how she's both.
Yeah.
It was really cool how when they went to the future war, we didn't see who the person was that they were transporting, but I think we can kind of assume it's Danny.
Yeah.
And then also the like Terminators that attacked them were very much like the T1 million in T2 3D. Listen to patreon.com/MicahMacaw to get that episode. Because they have like tentacles that come out and like
they
hit
look
people.
so scary.
And it was cool that they just like killed like immediately. They were just like killing left and right. They were crazy. And then that's when Danny's like, Grace is like, make me an augment.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Very cool.
So then,
yeah, I think a big part of that was because Danny clearly, assuming that was Danny on the stretcher, it's like she is dying. So the whole idea is like, send me back so I can save her.
Yeah, okay.
Or protect her, I guess.
Yeah.
We get more into that later though.
Right.
So Sarah catches back up with them and they go to a motel, all three of them together. And this is where we get a lot of things explained at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of it we just told you about Grace, but then you also learn, like you said earlier, about Sarah, where she's getting these texts every so often with coordinates leading her to a new Terminator that is spawning for her to kill, and it always ends with for John. She has no idea who it is.
And I like that she thinks it's someone who is like taunting her.
Yes.
Who's saying like, this one's for John.
Yes.
And this one is, and then you find out later that it's Carl, the old Arnold Schwarzenegger, sending her, like, he's trying to like make amends.
Yep.
Which is kind of beautiful.
Unbelievable. It is so good. We'll get into that as we get to that scene.
Yeah.
But we also learned, so Sarah's explaining basically T1 and T2 to them.
Yeah.
And Grace says, don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what Skynet is. There's a thing called Legion, though.
Yeah, and this is kind of throughout the second act of the movie. We learn all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Skynet and Cyberdyne do not exist in 2042 or whatever, and it's never existed. So what Sarah did worked.
Yeah.
And by her son dying, he kind of just like died for no reason then.
Right.
Which, makes it more traumatic,
of
course. But so we're in the motel.
We're in the motel, and then basically at some point they're like, we need to cross the border.
Mm-hmm.
I forget why they need to cross the border, but they need to cross the border. And Linda's like, really? You want to take someone who had their own episode of America's Most Wanted, me, and you want to take an undocumented immigrant through the border? What are you talking about? Cool.
I like how they say too, because Sarah just wants to take out the Rev 9. Yeah. And Grace says, you don't take it out, you run away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they're on the train. There's a sequence where Grace like basically is explaining
the future.
Yeah.
And she said, like, I came back here to protect you, Danny. And Sarah said, oh, it's because you're going to give birth to the person that's going to save the human race. Yeah. Oh, another womb to protect.
And I like that commentary kind
Me
of.
Too.
That's interesting. It is funny, though, because right when she says that line, you're like, oh, okay, so she's the leader of the human revolt.
Yeah.
I was kind of already assuming that.
Me too.
And especially because she was cool. Well, although I guess Linda Hamilton's cool, too, in the first movie. But
it just would have been too on the nose.
Yeah. And so they cross the border. This is when they get caught by Border Patrol. Because there's a lot of cool stuff where, like, the Rev 9 can just, like, look through systems. And so he, like, tracks a drone and, like, alerts the police and flies this drone into the ground. Which
I like how he just can go to a computer and just put his hands on it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to type and like
it's
figure
cool.
it out. He just processes it.
And it's cool how it's always cool to remember that drones are huge.
Yeah.
Because you always see them in movies and stuff, and they're usually from where they're at, and they look so small, but they are the size of a
that was
a truck
cool
or
part
so.
Where he took that over.
Yeah. And he tries to kill him. And then they're in the Border Patrol area.
Detention center.
The detention center, yes.
And they take Sarah away from everyone else because she is like a most wanted person.
Yeah.
The guy's like, you're famous.
Yeah.
For probably being a crazy old lady.
Right.
As we know.
And then the Rev 9 shows up. There's that great, shows his charisma and stuff where the guy goes, remove your weapon. He takes it off and he goes, my whole body's a weapon. And then he walks through the metal thing and the guy goes, the metal detector, and guy's
he's like, oh, my hips are replaced. Served two wars in Afghanistan. And the guy's like, oh, okay.
Thanks
for your
service. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. He's got kind of a Texas drawl as he's talking. And then it's just cool how like nonchalant he is going through, and he's just looking for them and trying to kill them. And of course,
another cool action scene.
This is when escape.
Grace is incapacitated in like the medical area, and these like doctors are discovering Like,
they're
what,
pulling back stuff.
what
Going,
is her?
what
Like,
is
how
this?
is she alive right now? And when she wakes up, she like knocks them all out. So I like when she wakes up and she's like, "Did I tell you could look at my private parts?"
And then they get out. They fly a helicopter, get away. As they're doing that,
So meanwhile, throughout this, they figure out where the coordinates. Oh, that's why they need to get to Texas, because they find out the coordinates are to where Grace needs to go if they need help, which is also the place where Sarah has been always like wanting to know who's been doing this so she can kill that person.
Yeah.
So they go there, and of course it's Arnold. We are halfway through this movie, and we finally get Arnold.
Yeah, and there's no actor billing at the beginning of this movie. Whereas in all the rest except Salvation, it is, well, and I think Terminator 1, but it says Arnold Schwarzenegger, then it says the title of the movie, then the next billed person, which is very interesting.
The movie is so good that when Arnold shows up, he is just another great addition. It's not like the movie had been missing something.
This doesn't feel like the Ip Man Bruce Lee thing. He actually feels pretty essential to this plot. And they found a really fun angle because each movie tries to find a new angle, and Terminator 3 and Genesis are kind of like, Arnold's back, and he's the same Terminator from Terminator 2, basically. Mm-hmm. And this one, he killed John Connor, and then he slowly,
over 20 years or so,
like, grew a conscience, basically.
Mm-hmm. He, as much as a robot can, fell in love with a woman who already had a son, so has been helping her raise her son. And I do like how he does mention, like, our relationship's not physical, it's purely just supportive of each other.
Yeah, because she doesn't know he's a machine.
Yeah.
And
because he's grown a conscience.
He has a drape business? Come on.
Yeah. Awesome. And because he's been growing a conscience over these decades, he has learned to, as much as a robot can, feel remorse for what he did to Sarah.
And not to be too plug heavy, but I do have a song called Nervous Tick, and the ending of the song goes, I think I'm growing a conscience.
Oh, it's about Terminator?
And even though I wrote the song before Terminator, I think it's truly about Carl. So go listen to Nervous Tick.
You should rename it Carl. Carl's Drapes.
Go listen to Nervous Tick by Micah McCaw, and that's me. And share with all your friends. Give me $100.
Okay.
What?
Okay, so they're there. They need to figure out like how he can help them if this is where the coordinates lie. Sarah is also just wanting to kill him immediately and is struggling with just trying to figure out what she should do at all about it.
All of their dynamic is awesome because there's also that lovely weight of here's two iconic roles and they're finally together again. There's also that added like behind the scenes that you take into the movie where you're like, finally, he's seeing Linda Hamilton again.
Yo, yeah. Yeah. And I, at some point during this scene, she does tell him that she will kill him again. Like
once this is over,
she will kill him.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So they figure out that they need to get like
an EMP
to take down Rev 9.
Something very funny is I saw that someone has a lot of people on Letterboxd will make stupid fun like a list of movies. Like I have my Peaches and Film list. Well, there was someone and they got Letterboxd to share it too, so they could get more things. Where it's the list was movies where they explain what an EMP is.
Are there a lot?
A ton.
Oh, I had no idea.
Their list had like 100 on it already. And it's so funny because sometimes you don't realize like a trope or something that's common in a movie till someone points it out. And then you're like, oh yeah, they explain EMPs in like every movie. And yet we still feel the need to explain them. Like we don't all know what an EMP is.
I didn't know what it was.
Maybe you don't?
No.
I feel like it's explained in like every other action movie.
It's an electromagnetic pulse. Okay.
Yeah. It like shuts down electricity in like a region.
Cool.
They use it in Ocean's 11.
Think about it though. That's always the parts in movies that I tune out because
true.
I don't care about how it works. I just need to know that it's going to or not when the time comes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why I need it explained and everyone else does too, because they know that we all tune it out.
Yeah. But they get it from some army guy. Then they get in a plane. Rev 9 catches up to him, starts slashing well, this is when Danny finds out she's the leader of the free world, or the.
Well, no, they have to get up in the air first. So they get in a plane. They get up in the air.
Sorry.
S is going down. So once they're there, and Rev 9's trying to catch up to them by hijacking another plane.
Yeah.
That's when Danny learns that she is the leader of the human race in 2042 or whenever this happens. And it cuts to a scene of Grace as a child, like alone in this apocalyptic future, about to get killed by people. Danny shows up and saves her.
Yeah.
And instills hope.
I like this part.
Really good. Oh my gosh, really good.
Where
she instills hope, but like she has a little speech to all
the people that were attacking this little girl.
Yeah, about like we're all on the same side because we are all human.
And she like hands them back their weapons
and helps them up.
Cool.
Unbelievable.
Cool. It's Ernest.
It really is.
Ernesty's good.
And they all like leave together.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so then they're in the plane.
And then Rev 9 shows up, just crashes into their plane with his plane.
Yeah.
Wild stuff. A lot of action ensues that's hard to describe.
They do a lot of cool stuff with the plane going down and changing like gravity.
Yeah.
And there's a part where they're all like floating because the plane is at
the altitude is so messed up.
Yeah, and they're like going down so quickly or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's causing zero gravity.
And earlier in the scene, they like when they get on there, I think Grace mentions like, we'll jump out of the plane if anything happens. And I'm like, cool, they get parachutes. That's fine. Uh-huh. No, she meant they're going to get into this car.
Humvee. A Humvee with a parachute. They're going to get into this
Humvee. And yeah, so they're getting into it ready for it to just come out of the plane. They're probably thousands of feet still in the air. And I'm like, wait, you can't put parachutes on cars. Apparently they do, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So
I think they do. I don't know for sure, but probably.
The movie seems pretty like hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
This stuff happens.
Have you ever seen they do it in The Dark Knight, so you have but like they have these planes with like hooks on the front, on the nose of the plane, and in the military, if they need to like pick someone up, they can like shoot this balloon in the air.
Yeah, they do that in The Dark Knight.
The plane like catches the balloon and takes the person up into the air.
I think when I saw The Dark Knight and that happened, I didn't fully understand that was real.
Yeah. Well, I think they say it's experimental, but I remember watching The Unit, which was a show on CBS, and they did that as well. And I think I asked my dad, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a real thing." I don't know how often they use it.
Crazy though.
But you'd think it'd just rip you apart immediately.
Well, not Batman.
No, not Batman. But Dennis Haysbert in The Unit, maybe.
Okay. Doesn't sound like Batman, so.
He kind of is in that show, actually.
I don't even know what the show is.
It's just something my dad and I watch all the time.
You'd watch anything on CBS back in those days, huh?
No, just CSI and that show.
You watch CSI?
Oh, man, I got into CSI.
You did?
Well, okay, fun story for the audience, I hope. Yeah, I got into CSI, and this is, before Netflix and streaming, and I was, like, trying really hard to go to Blockbuster so that I could watch, like, all of CSI, because they had, like, the series, and I just never wound up renting that first one, but there was one night, and I don't know if you ever saw this episode, but there's an episode of CSI that's, like, 2 hours that's directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Okay. I don't think I have ever seen one episode of CSI.
Okay. From my memory, and I didn't know who Quentin Tarantino was. I had no idea. But this episode was insane. And as a kid, it was crazy. And I was like, I think my bedtime was, 7:30 or 8 or something like that.
How old were you?
I mean, I think I was like a 5th grader maybe.
Your bedtime was 8?
Maybe not 8. I don't know.
Okay.
Just what I'm remembering. No, probably 9.
Okay.
Probably 9.
Okay.
But I think I did have earlier bedtimes. It might have been 8:30.
You just threw out the 7:30 though. No one goes. I mean, your mom goes to bed at 7:30, but.
Dad, I know you're listening. Let me know what my bedtime was in 5th grade. But it was a 2-hour, and I was like, "Can I please stay up? Can I please stay up?" And I think I was able to stay up for like the full first hour, and then they taped the second hour.
Okay.
And it was just crazy because one of the characters got buried and was like buried alive, and they were like trying to find him.
Yeah.
and they identified it by like this species of bug that was crawling around.
Oh, that's cool.
It was pretty cool. There was also a melted body in a trunk, and they opened it, and there was
Did they show stuff? Was it like gelatin?
Jordan. Quentin Tarantino directed the episode.
Yeah, so it's just all this like soapy.
Like soapy, gross.
This was on television?
It was on television. It was a big event because it was like we got Quentin Tarantino to direct an episode of
even
CSI.
the network's like, I don't care if we lose some ratings or anything. Like, we're putting this on here.
Yeah. So
I gotta watch this.
it would be a fun episode to revisit it. I bet it's very easy to find online.
Probably on some streaming service.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm not one of those illegal watchers. Not anymore. So, anyway, they parachute into zero gravity, or after the zero gravity scene,
And they're
parachute.
right over a dam.
Yeah,
so
and this would have been such a cool ride if, like, you're on this Humvee thing, and then it swings around to the back, a Terminator pops up and is trying to, like, knock you down,
So
and then
scary.
you fly backward down.
Uh-huh.
That'd be crazy. But they're in a dam, cool.
They eventually fall underwater and they're in the car and it's just Sarah and Danny.
Yeah.
And it's just like the stakes were so high. They were so high. And
Yeah.
no one saw this movie. And the stakes were so high, especially in this scene. And the Rev 9's trying to get in. So water's getting in now because it's like bashing in the windows.
Yeah.
And Sarah's telling her something with a parachute. Like once the door opens, like let this parachute go.
Yeah.
So it happens. They have enough of a diversion to swim up to the surface. And I like what you pointed out, that this underwater scene wasn't so insane that it didn't feel like no one could hold their breath.
Yeah, I held my breath and it was pretty easy
Yeah,
to get through that scene.
I really liked that because I feel like so many times in movies, it's just like, oh, I would have passed out 15 seconds ago.
Well,
no one's Tom Cruise.
Well, and I was going to say, then you see Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and you're like, this is like an 8-minute scene.
And then you find out, yeah, it was an 8-minute scene.
And then you find out, yeah, Tom Cruise really learned how to hold his breath for 8 minutes. And you go, could a series get any better?
And no one voted for that series to be covered next on the bracket.
Well, people voted. It just didn't win.
I know. Not enough.
But it did beat Underworld. And
Oh.
then it lost to Indiana Jones. I mean, that is a tough one to overcome.
People just don't want us to do that series.
I know for a fact at least one of our listeners wants us to have a bigger audience before we cover it. Because he views it as like, that's like your magnum opus. Like, you can't do it yet. You got to wait. It's Jake.
Oh, okay.
It's like, you got to wait until, like, you have 1,000 listeners or something like that, you know? So anyway, then there's a big fight in, like, the water treatment plant. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, always hard to describe action.
Yeah, but but Grace using the chain thing,
Oh, yeah. Very cool.
awesome. Badass.
Yeah.
They quickly find out there's like this turbine turning around and they're trying to get the Rev 9 over there to like smash it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually they do it. Big explosion. Huge. Arnold gets messed up really bad.
Uh-huh.
The Rev 9 gets incredibly messed up. But before it like comes back to life, because we all know it's coming back.
Yeah.
Danny is with Grace. Grace is dying. And she says that you need to take out like my power source.
Supply, yeah.
Because it's like an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. And that will be the one last thing that can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
So she does it. Pretty good emotional scene, I think.
Yeah.
And then it's just Danny and the Rev 9 fighting.
Yeah.
Also really important part, I think, of that scene, showing her doing it because she just found out that she is going to save the human race.
Yeah.
To which, of course, she's like, no, I won't. Do you know who I am? I'm nobody. And then you see her taking on the thing that will kill the human race. Really wonderful.
And that actress, she's owning it.
She's
like,
so good. She does so good.
Like, it's so, you're just there. You're like, you rule.
Yeah.
Got it.
So she's struggling a lot, of course. And then Sarah wakes up because she was incapacitated. And then Arnold wakes up too. Long story short, Arnold and the Rev 9 get down into like this pit.
Yeah.
And it kills both of them.
And he says, for John.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the thumbs up
made me
thing.
Emotional.
Did you cry?
No.
Did you weep?
No. But he was looking at Sarah when he said it, of course. And of course,
and she
Sarah
gets it now.
Because, she's like, I was going to kill this thing. But then it's as if she finally forgave.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
And then Danny and Sarah, they go and they look at the young Grace who has yet to grow up. And then I think Danny says something like, I don't want that future to happen. And then Sarah says, well, we got a lot of work to do.
Love that ending party line.
It's cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I think this movie truly is a product of the 3 other sequels.
Yeah.
I really don't think that if this movie, like we discussed earlier, I don't think if this movie came out without those other sequels, maybe even without just Terminator Genesis, I don't think it would. I think it would have done some pretty big numbers at the box office.
I think so too.
Because it's also like it's a rated R action movie, which most of the time they make sure those are PG-13 so that they can get
words in this movie though.
Yeah, so that they can get a bigger audience. And it was like, no, this is like,
it's Dark Fate. If we wanted to be PG-13, we would have just called it Fate.
So you would have thought in an alternate world where there aren't 3 really bad sequels, that more adults would have been like, heck yeah, I'm seeing this cool sci-fi. Yeah, action movie, cool.
Yeah,
leave the kids at home, babysitter. Let's watch this movie. But yeah, I think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly as good as 1 and 2, but I think it totally works.
Absolutely.
And my recommendation for people, unless they want to follow along with our podcast, which I will always recommend that first and foremost, is just watch 1, 2, and then watch 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dark Fate, sorry.
Yeah.
The other 3 are very, very missable.
Absolutely.
If you're a completist, you got to watch them. But if not...
If you're Micah, you got to watch them. If you're me, watch 1, 2, and Dark Fate.
Yeah. I mean, I would... If I could go back in time and tell my younger self what to do... Because of Terminator.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, weird series.
Very weird.
It's been...
I hope they never make another movie.
I really do too. Or if they do, I hope it's stop motion animated.
Okay.
Because that would be worth watching, if nothing else.
Okay.
Let's hear your ranking.
1.
This is
1 is 1.
Okay.
Oh no, let's go worst to
worst
best.
To best. Okay.
Worst is Genesis, and then you have the third one. I don't know what it's called.
Rise of the Machines.
Rise of the Machines, and then Salvation, and then
Salvation.
Dark Fate, Judgment Day, Terminator.
Okay, mine is almost the same, but I would go Genesis at the bottom, then Salvation, then Terminator 3, Terminator Dark Fate, Terminator 2, Terminator 1.
Cool.
The reason I give 3 the edge is the last 10 minutes of that movie. I think they do pull off the ending of like it's inevitable that Judgment Day will happen.
Yeah, I just really didn't like it. I was so bored that
no,
whole movie.
and I get it. I just the more I think about it, the more I'm like ideologically I like that idea. Okay. And I do think I don't give points to the movie for this, but if you look at the movie, you can watch that movie now with all the sequels they've made, and you can read it like this is their way of saying it's inevitable. They're going to make sequels to this, and we just have to make one. And that's kind of a fun, like, meta reading of the movie.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
It's very fun. I think a lot of people will truly enjoy that and just give us 5 stars and probably go to patreon.com/MICAHMCCAW, and they're going to listen to our Gremlins episode that we recorded for this month and go, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm going to upgrade to the $10 tier and also send Micah and Jordan $50 extra every month. I think that's possible. Once they watch Terminator 3 and think of it like that.
Oh my gosh.
But guess what, folks? You probably already know this because you've been following the bracket. The bracket won. We have a fan pick series next week. And next week is Christmas, so Merry Christmas. But on the day of Christmas, while you're opening your presents and stocking and eating all that leftover turkey from Thanksgiving, don't forget to sit your entire family down and listen to our episode on Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. Because next week's, it's pirates, folks.
Of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
So that is going to be...
We finally get to unpack Johnny freaking Depp.
And
no, we already did.
Well, But it's more unpacking.
It absolutely is.
And then we get to unpack Gore Verbinski,
Yeah.
which is going to be fun.
Yeah, that is.
We also get to unpack Javier Bardem.
Huh?
Yeah, Javier Bardem.
Oh, he's in one of the later movies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to go. I have not seen the last 2 movies. I've only seen the first 3.
I think I have 2.
And I'm going in fresh. Except I know that the first movie rules, so I'm very excited to watch that again.
First 2 movies rule, but it's been a very long time.
I loved the second movie, but I'm not sure it'll hold up.
Sure.
You know
That's
what I mean?
kind of how I'm looking at it.
But I'm hoping it'll at least be kind of cool. But thanks for listening.
See you next time.
We'll see you next week.